10 of the most notorious executioners from history. Welcome to Odd Occasions, where we explore the dark corners of history. In today's episode, we're counting down 10 of the most notorious executioners, individuals who carried out the grim task of taking lives in the name of justice, punishment, or terror. From medieval Europe to 20th century executioners, these figures gained infamy not only for their roles, but for the methods they employed, many of which have become the stuff of legend. Get ready to meet the men, and one woman, who became symbols of fear, cruelty, and death throughout history. Number 10. William Calcraft. Between 1829 and 1879, William Calcraft became one of the most notorious executioners in English history. Born in 1800 in Little Baddow, Essex, Calcraft came from a humble family. Before his rise to infamy, he worked a variety of jobs, but it was his recruitment as an executioner that cemented his legacy, though not in the way many might expect. Over the course of his 50-year career, Calcraft carried out between 430 and 450 executions. His methods, however, were often brutal and incompetent. Many of the executions he performed were botched, leading to prolonged suffering for the condemned. Calcraft had a penchant for spectacle. His preferred method of execution was hanging, but it was far from swift. Many of his victims endured agonizing deaths as the noose tightened slowly, their suffering drawn out for all to see. Take the case of John Babacom Lee. When Calcraft attempted to hang him, the process took nearly an hour, a staggering example of his ineffectiveness. Calcraft also carried out beheadings, but with a grim twist. He often used a blunt axe, ensuring the condemned met their end through slow and excruciating pain. His burnings at the stake were equally horrifying. Instead of dying from the flames, many victims succumbed to smoke inhalation, suffering before the fire even consumed them. Despite his controversial and often cruel methods, Calcraft served in his role for an astonishing half-century, making him one of the most infamous executioners in the history of the United Kingdom. Next, we move from the gruesome executions of 19th century England to the deadly reign of terror in revolutionary France, where the guillotine became the ultimate symbol of death. Number 9. Giovanni Battista Bugatti. Born on March 6, 1779, in the port town of Senigallia, on Italy's Adriatic coast, Giovanni Battista Bugatti, better known as Mastro Tita, would go on to become one of history's most notorious executioners. Between 1796 and 1864, Bugatti served as the official executioner for the Papal States, during which time he carried out an astonishing 514 executions. His nickname, Mastro Tita, is a Roman corruption of the term Maestro di Giustizia, or Master of Justice. At the age of 85, Bugatti was finally retired from his post by Pope Pius IX and granted a monthly stipend of 30 scudi. Bugatti's methods were as brutal as they were varied. He favored hanging, beheading, and one of the most gruesome execution methods of all, breaking on the wheel. In this method, the condemned were tied to a large wheel, and their limbs were systematically crushed with iron bars, a slow, agonizing death. Despite the horrific nature of his work, Bugatti's expertise and precision in carrying out executions earned him a certain level of respect from some parts of society. His presence became a symbol of the Papal States' justice system, blending fear with a sense of duty. While his methods were terrifying, there's no denying the infamous legacy of Mastro Tita, the man who brought justice to over 500 people during his lifetime. Next, we'll turn to another executioner whose name became synonymous with the French Revolution's most feared symbol: the guillotine. Number 8. The Sanson family. For 6 generations, spanning from the 17th to the 19th centuries, the Sanson family of France carved out a grim and legendary legacy as executioners. Their reign of death began in 1684, when Charles Sanson, the Patriarch, took on the role of executor of Paris. From that moment on, the Sanson name became synonymous with brutality, fear, and the death penalty. While beheading was considered a more compassionate form of execution compared to other methods of the time, the Sansons became notorious for their expertise and efficiency in the practice. They presided over some of the most notable executions in history, including Louis XVI, Marie Antoinette, and the infamous highwayman Cartouche. The Sansons were feared not just for the lives they took, but for the precision with which they did so. For over 2 centuries, the family played a pivotal role in enforcing justice with their blade. Even today, the Sanson family is remembered as one of the most cruel and dreaded dynasties of executioners in history, leaving behind a dark and blood-stained legacy. Next, we travel from France to Eastern Europe, where one executioner's methods left entire villages in fear of his name. Number 7. Franz Schmidt. Born in 1555, Franz Schmidt went on to become one of the most notable executioners of his time, serving the city of Nuremberg for over 4 decades. Schmidt was born into a family of executioners, inheriting the grim profession and perfecting it throughout his life. As the official executioner of Nuremberg, Schmidt was skilled in a range of execution methods. His work included hanging, beheading, and the horrific practice of breaking on the wheel. But his role didn't end with executions. Schmidt was also responsible for interrogating and torturing prisoners, forcing confessions from them before their final moments. What sets Schmidt apart from many executioners of his time is the meticulous record he kept throughout his career. His detailed documentation provides historians with a rare glimpse into the execution process and medieval justice. Despite the gruesome nature of his work, Franz Schmidt developed a reputation for his expertise and even a certain degree of empathy for those he executed. He was known for meticulous planning, ensuring that the condemned faced minimal suffering, an unusual trait for someone in his line of work. Franz Schmidt's ability to blend efficiency with a measure of compassion has left a unique legacy, making him one of the most respected executioners in European history. Next, we travel further back in time to meet an executioner whose brutal methods and reign of terror made his name infamous throughout the Middle Ages. Number 6. Lady Betty. Born around 1740, Lady Betty became one of Ireland's most brutal and feared executioners. Her story, though partly shrouded in mythology, is as chilling as it is tragic. According to Sir William Wilde, father of the famous author Oscar Wilde, Lady Betty used a burning stick to draw portraits of her victims on the walls of her residence, a haunting detail that lends even more terror to her legacy. But how did Elizabeth Sugrue, a poor widow from Kerry, Ireland, become Lady Betty? The story begins with heartbreak. After losing one child at a young age and watching another leave for a better life in the United States, Sugrue found herself alone, desperate. One fateful night, a wealthy stranger knocked on her door, seeking shelter. Seeing an opportunity for survival, Betty killed the man, only to discover later that the stranger was her own long-lost son, now grown. Betty was arrested, tried, and sentenced to hang at Roscommon Jail. But on the day of her execution, with 20 other prisoners lined up, something unexpected happened. The hangman was unavailable. Without hesitation, Betty seized the moment, pleading with the authorities, "Spare my life, Your Honor, spare my life, and I'll hang both of them." From that day forward, Lady Betty became Ireland's executioner, officiating unmasked and undisguised for many years. Even after receiving a pardon in 1802, she continued to carry out executions, living in a single prison cell until her death in 1807. Her story, a mix of fact and legend, remains one of the most gruesome in the annals of execution history. Next, we explore the terrifying legacy of an executioner whose name is forever tied to the blood-soaked days of the French Revolution. Number 5. Jack Ketch. In 17th century England, few names struck as much fear and contempt as Jack Ketch. Though little is known about his early life, Ketch first appeared in historical records in 1663 as the Hangman of London. Over time, he would go on to gain notoriety for his botched and brutal executions, earning a reputation as one of the most infamous executioners in England's history. Appointed as the official executioner by King Charles II, Ketch's career was filled with gruesome errors. Whether by hanging, beheading, or the horrifying practice of drawing and quartering, Ketch was known for his inefficiency. He often took multiple attempts to complete an execution, causing prolonged suffering for his victims and drawing scorn from the public. Ketch's most infamous moment came with the execution of William, Lord Russell, a powerful politician accused of conspiring to overthrow King Charles II. When Ketch attempted to behead Lord Russell, the result was a nightmare. It took him several strokes to remove Russell's head, leaving the condemned man to suffer through an agonizing death. This incident, along with others like it, damaged Ketch's reputation even further, turning him into a figure of public hatred. To this day, the name Jack Ketch is synonymous with incompetence and cruelty in the world of executioners. Next, we move to the chilling world of 18th century France, where one executioner became infamous for wielding the guillotine during the height of the French Revolution. Number 4. The family of Pierrepoint. The Pierrepoint family is synonymous with executions in England throughout the 20th century, leaving behind one of the most infamous legacies in British history. It all began with Henry Albert Pierrepoint, who served as the official hangman for the British government from 1901 to 1910. Following his tenure, his brother Thomas Pierrepoint took over the role, serving as executioner from 1910 to 1946. For decades, the Pierrepoint family continued to provide execution services, with additional family members stepping into the role. Their method? Hanging. And it was one they had perfected over the years, becoming known for their skill and efficiency. The Pierrepoints were frequently called upon to carry out the executions of notorious criminals and war criminals alike. Among their most famous executions were Ruth Ellis, the last woman to be executed by hanging in Britain, and William Joyce, better known as Lord Haw Haw, the Nazi propagandist executed for treason after World War II. Though their legacy is controversial, the Pierrepoints' role in the British justice system is undeniably a part of the country's history, one that still evokes strong reactions to this day. Next, we travel to the infamous guillotines of revolutionary France, where an executioner became a feared symbol of the Reign of Terror. Number 3. Bertrand Barère de Vieuzac. Bertrand Barère de Vieuzac was a prominent figure during the French Revolution, serving as a powerful member of the Committee of Public Safety during the Jacobin dictatorship from 1793 to 1794. Born in 1755 in Tarbes, Barère initially pursued a career in law, but soon found himself swept up in the turbulent politics of revolutionary France. He participated in both the Revolutionary National Assembly and the Convention, where he famously cast his vote in favor of the execution of King Louis XVII. As his political views became more radical, Barère implemented strict measures against anyone suspected of harboring royalist sympathies, earning him a reputation as one of the most feared revolutionaries of his time. During his tenure on the Committee of Public Safety, Barère oversaw the widespread use of the guillotine, a method of execution that became a chilling symbol of state-sanctioned violence. In addition to the guillotine, Barère approved other forms of execution, including hanging and shooting, as punishments for those deemed hostile to the revolution. It was said that Barère took great enjoyment in attending executions, further solidifying his place as a figure of terror. Despite his infamous legacy, Barère managed to escape punishment following the revolution and lived out the rest of his days in relative obscurity, passing away in 1841. Up next, we move to revolutionary France's most famous executioner, a man whose name became synonymous with the guillotine during the Reign of Terror. Number 2. Johann Reichhart. Johann Reichhart was one of the most prolific executioners of the 20th century, working in Bavaria during one of the most tumultuous periods in European history. Born in Würzburg in 1893, Reichhart came from a long line of executioners. In 1924, he became the official executioner of Bavaria, a role he would hold until his retirement in 1946. During his career, Reichhart was responsible for hundreds of executions, including those of Nazi war criminals after World War II. He also trained and supervised other executioners in the region, ensuring they maintained the same level of efficiency and precision that marked his own career. Reichhart's method of choice was beheading using the guillotine, a tool he believed to be more merciful than other forms of execution, such as hanging or the firing squad. One of Reichhart's key innovations was his use of a portable guillotine, an instrument that could be set up in various locations, even inside prisons, allowing for swift and efficient executions wherever they were needed. Known for his proficiency, Reichhart ensured the blade fell smoothly and quickly, aiming for a painless death despite the controversial nature of his work. His legacy remains that of a man who balanced efficiency with a belief in minimizing suffering, even in the darkest of duties. Next, we arrive at number 1, the most infamous executioner in history, whose name is forever tied to the bloodiest period of the French Revolution. Number 1. Vlad the Impaler, Prince Vlad III. Dracula, better known as Vlad the Impaler, ruled the Principality of Wallachia, in what is now Romania, during the mid-15th century, with intermittent reigns between 1448 and 1476. Vlad earned his brutal nickname due to the severe and sadistic punishments he inflicted on his enemies. His life was shaped by tragedy, the assassination of his father, the Wallachian prince, which led to his exile as a young boy. These events bred in Vlad a profound hatred for his adversaries and a penchant for merciless punishment. Vlad's preferred method of execution was impalement, a horrifying process in which a sharp spike was driven through the victim's body, resulting in a slow and agonizing death. To Vlad, this form of punishment was not only fitting for his enemies, it became his signature method of administering justice. It is widely believed that Vlad was responsible for the deaths of thousands, including Turkish soldiers who attempted to invade Wallachia. One particularly grisly tale describes how Vlad created a forest of impaled bodies outside a city he had captured, an eerie, blood-soaked warning to discourage any thoughts of rebellion. Vlad the Impaler's legacy of terror has survived for centuries, blending fact and legend, and his name has become a symbol of ruthless authority and unimaginable cruelty. Thank you for watching this grim dive into the lives of history's most notorious executioners. These individuals played chilling roles in shaping justice and punishment through the ages. If you found this journey through history's darkest deeds fascinating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more unsettling episodes from Odd Occasions. Let us know in the comments which executioner or method shocked you the most, and stay tuned for more spine-tingling stories. Until next time, Stay curious and stay cautious.